joke around school because they used to ask us, are you guys sure you're not sisters? And we used to joke like maybe in another lifetime, not knowing we're actually sisters. And then we became friends, and then she eventually told me about me. I didn't even know she was talking about me. She told me about a sister that was abducted when she was a newborn in the hospital. And I thought she was talking nonsense because it sounded like something out of a movie. And not knowing, she's actually telling me about me. And I'm like right in front of her.
Our next story began with heartbreak, a child kidnapped at birth.
New parents Celeste and Miché Nurse had their 3-day-old daughter, Zephany, stolen from them.
This is the neighborhood that the kidnapped girl grew up in. It's just a few miles from the home of her biological parents, who had been searching for her for nearly 18 years.
Zephany Nurse became the poster child of hope for all parents of missing children.
Oh, it's so good to have you here. And I mean,
It's great, man.
I was watching your documentary last night, and your story is probably one of the most mind-blowing stories I've ever heard. And I'm sure you get that a lot.
I do. I still do get that a lot. A lot of good feedback and how the film has impacted many people's lives.
You were born at Groote Schuur Hospital in Cape Town on the 28th of April, 1997, and you were abducted 2 days later.
That's right.
Can you walk me through the days leading up to your abduction? How were your parents feeling? Were you their first child?
That is right. I am the eldest in my family from my mother and my father, which is Miché Nurse and Celeste Nurse. So from the stories that they've told me, from what I know, was that they were young parents. I think my mom was about 18 years old when she fell pregnant with me. She was still in school. And they were excited to have me based on the pictures that they've shown me. And there was a whole bedroom set up. And obviously 6 months into my mom's pregnancy, my parents got married. So they were prepared to have me. And then something happened. I think my mom actually gave birth before her due date. It was actually, I think, I'm not too sure, but I think I was called as a preemie, not too sure. But then she had to give birth at Retreat Hospital. Then there was another complication, and they transferred her to Groote Schuur Hospital, and that's where everything happened.
So your parents arrived at the hospital. I'm assuming they went to the maternity ward, they got comfortable, and I'm sure they were nervous because you were their first child.
Of course, you are nervous when you become a parent, and especially at that young age.
How old were they?
My mom was 18. I think my dad was about 19 or 20.
Okay.
But they were married, so they were setting up themselves for becoming a family.
Yeah, but it wasn't a planned thing.
Me being here today. No, I don't think I was planned. No. Yeah. So they arrived at the hospital. Then, my mom had a cesarean. It was an emergency cesarean that she had. And then afterwards, she obviously had to be dosed with a lot of morphine because of the pain and all of that. And from what I know, there was this lady roaming around the hospital, which was dressed as a nurse. And obviously, if someone is dressed as a nurse, you won't think that it's an actual kidnapper.
You would probably think that they're a nurse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Someone that's going to help you, someone that you can trust around your baby and yourself. So then, from what my mom told me, she was asleep because of the morphine. And when she woke up, I think they actually woke her up into the state of trauma and chaos. I wasn't next to her in the crib that I was laying. And then after that, the case just unraveled and their lives were turned upside down to this point, in all honesty.
I mean, I can't imagine. And as someone who's thought about having kids their whole life, I'm always wanted kids. I can't imagine being a young parent at the hospital. You go to sleep, you think your baby's safe. I mean, you're in a hospital.
That excitement, that expectancy for 9 months. I mean, I just gave birth about 4 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And myself and my husband actually found ourselves like sitting, and I just asked him, imagine how my dad felt, because it's his first child. And I could see how he prepared himself as a dad, and how is he going to speak to his son, and what he was like when I was carrying this baby in my womb. And it made me immediately felt oh my word, this is probably what my dad felt, just to come to the hospital and that wasn't
sick
there.
feeling, hey?
Of course, exactly, not knowing where your baby is that you've waited for so long for. So we had that conversation, and it was just, I keep finding myself thinking back when looking at my kids, oh my word, what my parents have gone through. Yeah.
Yeah, and as someone who's put their parents through a lot as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I feel you.
Yeah.
So it says over here, Celeste, who is Zephany, your real mom, described a person in a nurse's uniform comforting her while her baby was still in the nearby cot before falling asleep. When Celeste had woken up, a nurse kept asking her where the baby was, and at this point, she realized that Zephany had been taken. So
yes, that's right, yes.
Yeah. So from what you know, what happened after your mom was told and your dad was told that you had been taken?
You know, let me just say this. When I go to my ma, my actual ma, my biological ma, she tells us a story all the time. So from what I can remember is that my mom had a drip in. She actually just pulled the drip out, and my mom said the blood was all over because she was screaming, where's my baby? Where's my child? And they said she was running crazy around the hospital, and my dad just started throwing everything around, and he was scolding at the nurses and the security guards. Why weren't you on duty? Waar is my kind? Where is my child? What happened to my child? She said it felt actually like someone had died that day because she never saw she'd never seen my parents that devastated and out of control. They couldn't control my dad the way he went on that day when I was kidnapped. And I still can't comprehend it to this day what they must have felt when I wasn't there. They went home without a baby, which is the saddest thing any mother or father could ever go through, is to leave the hospital without your baby. Worse, not knowing if your child is alive or where your child is, and you've just kept that baby. So I know they went home. It was cold, that room, coming back to a baby room that you've prepared for, and there's no baby, and having to file police statements and social workers around you. It was, from what I know, from what they said, it was extremely horrible, horrendous for my parents to come back home. And my mom, she still says to this day, my parents are never the same. They were never the same after that day. They're still not.
I mean, you can't be.
You can't be.
I know people that have lost kids, and
yeah,
it's just, you can never recover from it.
I still hope and encourage them to go for counseling, but it just seems like it's they can't recover from that. Yeah.
So I read something and it said, because I was like, how did this lady escape from the hospital with a baby, with someone else's baby?
Yeah.
Do you know how she escaped?
I don't exactly know how, but apparently there were some cameras working that day. Some weren't working, so they couldn't get the clear footage. But apparently there was a tunnel. There's a tunnel at Groote Schuur where they found, I think it was a carrier that I was in or laying in. They found, I think, some of my baby clothes. I'm not really sure. And obviously the pregnant pillow that they found there in the tunnel.
Yeah, so it also says here that the hospital contacted the police for assistance as soon as you went missing, and they searched the hospital. However, only a few untraceable items were found, including Zephany's baby nest, a baby garment, a pillow, and a handbag with no identifiable items. So she obviously apparently there was like a tunnel that went to another part of the hospital.
Yes, I think it was the exit.
Yeah, the exit. It was like an entrance or something so that people can get into the maternity ward.
Yes, that's
And she escaped through there and left all the items there.
I still, to this day, like, kind of wonder. I still have some questions that I would like to ask her. But I don't think she is prepared to give me those answers, or if I will ever get answers from what actually happened that day.
Have you never tried to ask her?
I will. I can say that I will try and ask her, but obviously not right now. I mean, she's been released from prison last year, which is, for me, it's still very recent. So, yeah, maybe in the near future, I'll try and ask her if I get anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened in the days after the abduction, right?
So what happened after the days after the abduction? Obviously, there was an investigation. Missing file persons report was filed, and there was a search. And I know my mom said there was this terrible experience that they had where they had to go search for me in like the fields, and they search people's homes in the most terrible states, and they would hear babies crying. And wherever she used to go and she would hear a baby cry, she would actually go and ask the people, can I just look at your baby? Can I just see your baby just to see if it was me? So she went through a lot of trauma, a lot of mental trauma, and my dad. And she said that, when you become a mom, your breast actually, you need to breastfeed, obviously, to that child. And her breast would become so sore because there was no baby to latch onto her and feed from her. And that was, for me, when she told me that, because I know what breastfeeding is like. I've got 3 kids now. So my heart just broke when she told me that. And she was like, they would go into the field late at night and not sure if they'd find my dead body there. What would they find there? Pieces of me, remains of me. So it was extremely terrible for them after the day of my abduction. That is what I can tell you. And my parents are still trying to recover from that.
And do you know if there was any leads or clues any on? Did they have any idea who did this? Was there any phone calls? I'm sure they were getting tons of phone calls.
There was something, I think it was a lady, a friend, a family, I'm not sure if it's a family friend, but it was someone that they knew. And I think it was a false alarm. Well, I won't say a false alarm, but an intentional false alarm. I think someone wanted to extort some money from them. So I think there was this woman that they knew. I'm not going to mention her name. She called my dad. I think it was in the middle of the night. And she apparently told him that she knew where I was. I think she said she knew where I was. She knew who took me. In exchange, I think it was for 50,000 rand. And then obviously my dad went to the police, who was on the case, and obviously organized a team to go and meet this woman. And I think she told him, she gave him a place where he should meet her to obviously give me now team.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the woman never came. But I think they managed to trace the calls, and they found out it was this woman, someone that they knew. And I think she actually went to prison for that. And that just messed them up further, seriously. It did.
So I've actually got a clipping of it here as well. And it says, in another instance, after almost 12 years of no news, in July 2009, the nurses received a phone call in which a woman whispered, I know about your daughter. And asked for 500,000 rand.
Wasn't it 50,000?
500,000, it said.
Yeah.
Which is approximately, back in those days, $70,000 to be delivered at a prearranged place.
Yes,
Police were
that's
contacted and the drop-off monitored,
right, yes.
but no one arrived to collect the money. The call was later traced to, I'm not going to say her name, a neighbor of Celeste Nurse, mother, who was charged with extortion and was given 3 years house arrest, 5,000 rand fine, and 600 hours of community service.
Yes, that's right.
That's crazy stuff,
That is cruel. That is very cruel.
And what kind of media attention did this case get right at the beginning?
Like, are you referring to 1997?
Like, as it happened, yeah.
There was media coverage back in 1997, and I think they celebrated or published my birthday every year. Yeah, but in 2015, when it was obviously, there was evidence that I was found, and then it received a lot of media coverage. Yeah. I was still at the safe house when I actually saw it on TV. I didn't even know that it was that huge. I really didn't know it was that huge until the social worker's house that I was living at, because obviously they took the DNA test.
Yeah.
She told me, switch the TV on. And then I saw, oh my word, here's the woman that says she's my mother's on TV. And then I saw my mother that had raised me get out of a police van. And it was a sad, very, very sad moment for me.
I mean, I would like to talk about her, right? So her name is it Lavona?
Lavona, that's right.
Lavona Solomon.
Yeah.
She was the lady that kidnapped you. Can you tell me about her? Like, who was she? What was her life like before the kidnapping? And what do you think? Yeah, I mean, like, who was she? What was her life like before the kidnapping?
Knowing Lavona, I'm sorry, I get very emotional when I talk about her.
It's okay.
She's a mom. She's always been a mom to me. And I think that's something that nobody can take away. Her acts of services as a mom to me and her acts of services as a wife to the father that had raised me. So she was a very, how can I say, she was family orientated. So she was everybody's mother in the family. She was everybody's go-to person, whether it was for talking, financial help, food, whatever your family needed, she was the go-to person, and she was my go-to person. And then finding out all these other things about her as being a kidnapper, a criminal, a liar, manipulator, broke my heart into a million pieces. And it scarred me to the point of where my trust was broken. But knowing Lavona, living with her, she was mommy to me. I still do call her mommy sometimes, just because I'm still so used to it. Yeah, it was hard. It was very heartbreaking for me. I'm not going to cry because I've dealt with this. So she was mommy to me. Yeah, the image that I still have of her. I'm not sure how she's now because it's prison. Prison does change people. I haven't taken the opportunity to speak to her as yet. So to me, she was mommy. Yes, she was home to me. Yeah.
And what do you think drove her to do this? Because it's like you say, she's this very sweet lady.
Yeah.
There's no red
The person I knew.
Yeah, the person you knew, right? But like, what do you think drove her to go to a hospital and steal someone else's baby?
I'll be honest. In the beginning, I didn't believe it because I personally believe that she couldn't have done this alone. I don't think she has the intelligence to do this thing alone. Not to disrespect her or to insult her, but that's just my opinion. But I think the thing that drove her to do this was she had miscarriages before, and growing up, I know from what she told me, she had her first child. I think her baby died at 6 weeks old. So she had a baby and the baby passed on. And she obviously had miscarriages after that. And she grew up with a lot of trauma in her family, especially, I don't want to speak a lot about her personal life.
That's okay.
Yeah, but from what I know, and obviously what the public also knows, that she had a lot of miscarriages. And I think that I don't think she was ever offered counseling for that. I don't think she got the help that she needed psychologically, because miscarriages is not just anything that a woman just goes through. It's something else.
It's heartbreaking.
Yes,
and
it
to
is.
experience it multiple times.
Especially when your first baby was born and your baby had died, and now it's like I'm trying to be in her mind. It's like one kind of wants that specific baby back, and you can't have this child. And my dad, he's a great guy. He's a soft guy. He's everything.
You're talking about Lavona's husband.
Yes, the father that raised me.
Yeah.
And there were many statements that said she had done this because of him, because she wanted him, not because she actually wanted a baby. Yeah.
So you think he might have left her maybe because she couldn't have kids? So I
don't know if he knew that she couldn't have kids.
Okay.
But yeah. Yeah.
And do you think her actions were like a result of desperation? Or do you think, because you seem to think that there was something else at play there?
I think her acts of kidnapping was, if you look at it from an emotional point of view, I would say, or perspective, I would say someone that is not in their right mind. And the judgment is clouded by a lot of psychological issues. But then if you take it from someone that is selfish, someone that is ruthless, someone that doesn't care about the mother that had given birth, in that case, my mother, I would say she acted selfish. She did. It was ruthless what she did. You don't go and steal people's children, babies. You don't do that. And I would say that she had a choice. But I think there was more psychological. I'm not trying to justify what
No, I know. It's such a weird thing because for you, it's like
many
you're
times.
caught up in this weird position where you loved this person for so long and you had no idea.
Exactly.
But now you know, and it's just like, we'll get to it, but it's like I can understand how you feel that way. Yeah, you're confused about it.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
It is difficult because through all my interviews, it's hard for people to see outside the person that I knew, which I cannot help for because I wasn't abused about her. So for me to say, I think there was a lot more psychological issues that clouded her judgment, even though she had a choice. She made some very bad choices, terrible choices, which left people to pick up the pieces to this very day. So I think what could have driven her to that was a lot of trauma.
And I think maybe something that I understand that a lot of people watching won't understand, and a lot of people overseas won't understand if they're watching this, is the fact that you come from the Cape Flats, which is an area that I've spent countless hours working in. I've interviewed several people from the Cape Flats. I interviewed Ellen Pakkies as well, also from Lavendale.
Yes.
And there's amazing people in the Cape Flats, but there's also a very dark side of the Cape Flats with
very, very dark side.
Gangsterism, addiction, abuse, neglect, violence, kids not going to school. So
murdering even.
I mean, everything. And your mom, I'm sure growing up there, was exposed to a lot of really hectic things and also not making excuses, but I can understand the pain that she probably felt, right? And
yes, that's right.
Watching the documentary, one of the things that really kind of hurt me a little bit was watching your parents pleading when it first happened, right? They're so young in the video. They're so young in the video. And this is right after you were taken.
Yeah.
And they're pleading, please, if anyone is watching this, if you took our baby, we don't hold it against you. Please just bring back our baby because she's ours. Do you know if Lavona saw that? Do you think she saw that? She must have seen those videos.
I think she might have. I'm not too sure. I think she might have. But my question was always, why would you steal someone's child and yet move only kilometers away from where that child's family lives?
I mean, you grew up literally a few kilometers from your house, where your real parents lived.
Exactly. So that was another question, like, what was this woman, who was more involved in this thing?
So you think there was other people involved, eh?
I don't want to say this out loud.
Yeah,
okay. I do think there was a syndicate involved, yeah.
And what do you think the plan was?
I think in terms of home affairs, Miché Solomon, obviously my 30th of April, the day that I was abducted, that is the date of birth that I'm still running with. How did I get on that system? Who authorized me to be on that system?
So I heard something that said that they put your name, so Lavona, hey? So she abducted you and she never filed for a birth certificate for 6 years.
That's right.
Something like that. And then went to the hospital to do it.
I'm not sure how she got it, but it was obviously registered in Malmesbury. So why in Malmesbury?
I have no idea.
So there's a lot of...
so you're saying she went far out of town to register you?
According to their systems, yes. Okay. That's where the birth certificate was registered.
And do you think maybe it's just so that it wouldn't like be too close to the hospital that you were born at? Or you think there was another reason?
I should be very careful what I say.
Sorry. If you don't want to speak about stuff, don't speak about it.
Okay, let's leave it at that.
Okay. So... can you tell me a little bit about Lavona's husband, Miché Solomon, right? So, Miché Solomon, obviously not your real dad, but the dad that raised you, right? What was he like? What kind of a person was he? Or is he?
He's an incredible dad. We still have a relationship today. He's always been there for me, still there for me, and he takes my kids as his own grandchildren. So I don't think that's ever going to change. So he's always been a workaholic dad, a dad that always provided, and a dad that always protected me. So it was kind of hard when I found out that I had another dad, but yet such a different dad from the dad that I knew that had raised me. But we have a really good relationship to this very day, yes.
And one of the big things that people were saying is that he must have known. Because
I knew that was coming up.
So your mom arrived home with a baby, right? What did she tell him?
So from what I know, what he said, I think it's what he said. She arrived home with the baby and she just told him that she had given birth.
Okay.
And I don't know if she had told him that she had gone to the hospital because she was in labor. And apparently when he came home from work, there she was with me. And my dad being my dad, he doesn't ask a lot of questions. I'm not going to say that, the word that I wanted to say. He doesn't ask a lot of questions. And he just believed her.
Okay. So, I mean, Lavona was pregnant prior to this happening, right? So from what I could tell, she was pregnant for about 4 months or something like that?
I think it was around about there, and then I think she had the miscarriage.
And then she had a miscarriage and just didn't tell anyone?
According to my dad, she did look pregnant, according to him. So it's probably true that she was pregnant, and they never told anybody that she had a miscarriage. And apparently my dad, while her being pregnant, weren't that close. So he never really often followed up on her pregnancy with me now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you get home and it kind of just started the life, like your life as their child. He didn't think anything was suspicious or...
His family, I'm saying too much. His side of the family always said or always thought, or well, maybe amongst each other, she doesn't look like her, like Lavona. And it was always like, there was doubt. There's a possibility that this child is not Michael's. And then when the whole thing came out when I was 17, it actually kind of just validated the doubt that it is true. I wasn't actually Michael's daughter. Yeah.
So he didn't really ever suspect anything, hey? And you...
No, he didn't make me feel like I'm not his daughter or anything. He was full on daddy and... Yeah.
Yeah. And from what I could tell, it seems like you don't think that he knew.
I don't think he knew.
Yeah. I also got the feeling that he didn't know.
You'll pick it up.
He seems like a very genuine person.
He is. And like I said, he doesn't ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So he just kind of go with things. So I don't think he knew that I wasn't his or that I was stolen. Yeah.
And I just want to get into your life after the abduction, right? So just growing up, I mean, how would you describe your upbringing in that house?
My upbringing in the house that I was raised in, which was in part of Lavendale, wasn't in the flats, but it was in the area. It was part of the Cape Flats area. It was a home, like I tell many people, it's part of my testimony. We weren't rich, but we weren't poor either. I had hardworking parents that worked hard for me, and it was family, and I grew up with a lot of family, a lot of cousins, so it was never a dull moment in our home, and we had a lot of family gatherings and lunches. And I remember we used to camp a lot. That used to be one of my favorite things, was camping and just having my cousins over, and it was just family all the time. So my upbringing was never I can say this confidently and truthfully, negligent, because that's what you get a lot in the Cape Flats area is abuse, like you said earlier, abuse, negligence, violence. That was not happening in my household that I grew up, even though I grew up in that area. So I was always treated like the princess in the family. I think also because I looked so different. So I was always treated very first place, like they would say. So my parents always protected me. Nobody could say a bad thing to me. My dad would just be there, and my mom would be there. So it was a lovely household. And I think that's what makes me sad today, is because it's no longer there.
That's the confusing part.
Yeah, it's no longer there. And can I still hold that image of her? If I go back to her, will I still find that? I don't think so. Yeah, but growing up in that household was more family orientated than anything else. Yeah.
What's up, everyone? And sorry for interrupting the show, but if you've been watching the Wide Awake podcast for a while, you'll know that I've always wanted to get a sponsor on so that I can keep building the platform. And I'm so grateful to introduce this week's sponsor, Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one toolkit bringing all your business on one platform. Whether you're managing sales, inventory, accounting, or HR, it's all connected in one easy-to-use platform. No more juggling over 10 different softwares. If you've ever wanted to streamline your business, you can actually start by building a stunning and modern website using Odoo's website builder app. If you've ever wanted to build a website for your business but felt totally lost, I get it. I was in the same place a few weeks ago. But Odoo's website builder app has changed the game. It's designed to make web creation super simple and fun, even if coding sounds as foreign to you as ancient Greek. The best part, their website builder feels like you have a design pro right next to you. Just drag and drop blocks, customize them with a few clicks, and bam, a professional looking website. You can edit the text, colors, highlight important sections, and it feels like you know exactly what you're doing. Because you do indeed know exactly what you're doing. It's that simple. And here's the kicker. Your first app on Odoo is free for life, including hosting and support, plus a free domain for the first year. This means you can build a whole modern, stunning website for your business free of charge, no strings attached. It's business management made easy. Get started with your free website using the link in our description, and I promise you, your business will thank you. But seriously, I've been using Odoo for the past few weeks, and it's such an incredible tool for your business. So if you want to save yourself some time and money, give it a try today. The link is in my description. But let's get back into the show. I want to talk about your real family now for a bit, right?
Can I have some water, please?
Oh, yeah, go for it. So in terms of your real family, in the years that followed your abduction, what was their life like?
My parents were married. They had other 3 kids, which is my 2 sisters and my baby brother. His name is Joshua. We call him Josh as well. So their lives obviously went on. They had more kids. Obviously, they kept looking for me. They celebrated, I think, with Pick n Pay. Pick n Pay used to make a birthday cake every year for me.
I saw they would do that to try and keep your name in the news.
Yes, that's right. And also, they would invite the media, and the media would just put it out there. And then my mom also developed cancer in those years, and my parents actually, they separated, they got divorced after everything. They actually got divorced after I was found. Yeah, the divorce was finalized.
After you were found?
Yes, I think it was about, they found me, and then in that week or the month after, the divorce was finalized. So they went through a rough patch. Yeah, after the abduction, but their lives went on. Yeah.
And do you know how long they waited after your abduction before having another baby? Or
I think, they waited about 4 years because that's 4 years after my sister Cassidy was born. Yeah.
And then what year did you discover your real identity? So you were abducted in 1997.
Yeah.
Do you remember what year it was?
What year when I found out everything?
Yeah.
It was 2015. I was
2015?
Yeah.
Okay. And what school were you going to at the time, and how old were you?
I was at Swansweg High School, which is in Turkey. And I was 17, turning 18. I was in my matric year, yes.
And can you tell me the story? Because I think it's such
it's crazy.
It's such a crazy story, right? And I want to know every detail from it. So I want to know the story of how you discovered your identity, basically.
Oh, there's a lot to it. There's too much to it. So how I found out everything was more of how it found me.
Yeah.
I didn't find it. It actually came looking for me. So I was in class. I think I was in math. And then the principal called me to the office. That was in February. So it was in the beginning of the year. The principal called me to the office. And I was like, oh, heck, what did I do now? I didn't catch me bunk. Anyway, took my stuff. He said I must take my bag. Took my bag, went to his office. Got to his office, there's 2 social workers sitting. But before then, let's rewind.
With your sister?
With Cassidy, yes.
Yes.
Let's go there. So there was this rumor going around school that there's this other girl that looked like me. And from what I can remember, there was actually teachers asking her, does she have an older sister in matric called Miché? And she was like, no, she doesn't have an older sister, and all this other things. Then I think there was actually a friend of mine. She was in my accounting class, and she was like, yeah, I just saw your sister down the hall. And I was like, no, I don't have a sister. I'm the only child in my family. And one day, I think it was in the passage, the hallway. And I think we walked into one another. I saw her. And I think, I don't know, I can't remember what we had words with one another, but I can honestly tell you, this is what I tell everybody because this is the honest God's truth. When I saw her, I felt something I've never felt before. I reasoned it with most probably because this is how much she looked so much like me when I was 14. And it's like, how can someone look so much like me? And we just became weirdly enough friends. Like, who becomes friends with a 14-year-old and you in the tree? Like, who?
Yeah.
We became friends, and I immediately felt this sense of protection. It was so weird. So weird. It was like supernatural weird. And I felt this sense of protection over her. And we became like kind of sisters. We even used to joke around school because they used to ask us, are you guys sure you're not sisters? And we used to joke like maybe in another lifetime, not knowing we're actually sisters. And then we became friends. And then she eventually told me about me. I didn't even know she was talking about me. She told me about a sister that was abducted when she was a newborn in the hospital. And I thought she was talking nonsense because it sounded like something out of a movie. And not knowing, she's actually telling me about me. And I'm like right in front of her. And we became friends. And I think I met her dad after that.
How long were you friends for before she told you that?
Long. Everything happened in February.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it all happened very quickly.
Yes. I think in the space of a month and a half, that's when everything happened.
And I'm sure you've spoke about it now with her. But
yeah,
when she first saw you, did she think that you were her sister straight away, maybe?
I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she said she felt something, but I know there was a pulling that I couldn't understand that time. Yeah.
So it says here in January 2015, the nurse's second daughter, Cassidy Nurse, started at a new school where Zephany, then age 17, coincidentally was also in attendance under the name Miché Solomon.
It's crazy, I tell you.
Friends of Zephany commented on the uncanny resemblance between the two girls, and despite their 4-year age difference, they formed an almost immediate friendship.
Yes, that's true. That's right.
And so when you first met Cassidy, right? You guys were hanging out, you were good friends. What happened after that? I'm sure she went home and was like, hey, Mom, there's this girl at school that literally looks exactly like me.
She told everybody. She told my dad. She told my bio dad first. And he became like a detective. And he still says this, he started scrutinizing my profiles on Facebook, my pictures, and where I was from. And then there was this weird thing that she asked me. Was I born on the 30th of April, 1997? And I never thought at that time that she was actually investigating me a little with all these questions. And I never thought that time that she was actually confirming the day that I was actually kidnapped, which was actually my birthday.
Yeah.
So after the abduction, a lot of other things took place with social workers and those things, yeah.
So I remember seeing that, I think, your real dad.
Yeah.
When your sister went home and told them about you.
Yes.
They wanted to set up some sort of a meeting or something, and you ended up going to like a McDonald's.
I think it it was sports that day. Yes, I took her for lunch, and then she didn't let him know. And we went to McDonald's, but we went with my other friends as well. And then he came in there like this buff guy. He thinks he's the... And he came in there and he was like, why are you taking my daughter? And I was like, what the heck? Why is this guy so in my face? And I think from his side, he saw a lot of me in my mom. A lot of my mom in me.
Your real mom, yeah.
Yes. And I think he asked me, what did he ask me? When I was born.
He also asked you when you were born.
Yes. And that was the key for him. That's what he needed to hear.
And did he say something to you straight away when you said that?
No, I think he was talking with someone on the phone. I'm not sure. I think he was talking to one of the social workers.
Okay, so he was keeping it close to his chest.
Yeah, I would say so, yes. Yeah.
And then what happened there after that, right? So he discovers your identity. I'm sure he goes home and tells his wife, your mom, and they have a meeting. I'm sure you don't know about any of this happening, obviously.
I didn't. I promise you, if I had known, I would have packed a bag and skedaddled.
You would have left?
Yes, because it's crazy.
It is crazy. So
nobody's going to investigate me. Yeah, it's crazy.
So then, when did you find out? What happened? Did someone come and collect you, or?
So when I found out everything was when I was called by the principal to come into his office, and he said, take your bag. And I came into his office and there was 2 social workers. But at that time, me and Cassidy weren't that close. I think I kind of felt like... I felt like they were investigating me at that time.
Okay.
It was too much questions.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable a bit.
Yeah.
So there was 2 social workers, and I immediately felt so fearful, in all honesty, because why am I being called into the principal's office with 2 strangers? And I sit down. From what I can remember, I sit down, and they welcome me. They soft, sweet. Then they start getting into explaining to me why I've been called to the office and why they're there. And I think they took out I think it was a file or a book with records of babies that were born in Retreat Hospital. Well, they asked me, where were you born? So I said, according to what I know, I was born at the Retreat Hospital. And then they take out this, I think it was a file, I'm not sure, but it was like a record book. And they said, but there was no Miché Solomon born on the 30th of April, 1997.
At Retreat Hospital.
At the Retreat Hospital. How does an 18-year-old digest that?
Yeah.
There's no record of you being born. It's crazy. And I sat there and I thought... I think I was fearful, and I was actually getting irritated because I then wanted to see my parents. And she then told me they're going to conduct a DNA test.
Okay.
And that's when I told myself, okay, this is actually real. This is an actual criminal thing now going on here. And then I asked them, can I at least have my parents with, my mom at least? Can you call her? And she said, no, something about you over the age of 12. You don't need your parents' consent to have a DNA test conducted. And I then eventually agreed to it. But in the beginning, I wasn't actually happy with it because I didn't believe them. But the turning point was when they told me there was no record of where I was born. That's when I agreed to do the DNA test. From what I can remember, then I went out to the office. There was 2 other Hawks officers outside, Barkeisen, and I don't know what's the other one's name, but they were. The other one was so nice. He was so sweet. And I just started crying. I don't know, but I just started crying because it was so overwhelming. Like, how does one go from being called out of your classroom into the office, being explained about, yes, they still explained to me about the baby that was kidnapped and Cassidy, and that's why they called me into the office. And I just felt it was so overwhelming because I couldn't even call my parents. Why am I not allowed to call my parents? Why can't I at least have some sort of support, a familiar face with me, You're just telling me now there's no record of me being born at a specific hospital. You're telling me more about myself than what I know about myself. So it was devastating. We then went to, I think it was Victoria Clinic, where they did the swabbing and the DNA test. And then where it struck me was, and they told me I won't be able to go home because they're afraid that she might flight with me. And I was like, but I don't feel like she's a risk or anything. She's my mother. And then they said, no, we're going to take you to a safe house. And I was like, a safe house?
You're like, my house is safe.
Yeah, exactly. Why am I being taken to a safe house? I don't feel like I'm in danger. Why do you have... This was going through my mind. Why do you have to remove me from my family? I don't feel in danger or anything. Yeah. But then they explained to me the protocols of things and that it could just be investigation. But according to the one of the Hawks officers, I had a conversation with him, Colonel Barques, and he said when he saw me, he already knew
that you were the girl.
Yes, because there was too much of a resemblance from my side and my siblings and my parents. We went to the safe house, and it was actually very heartbreaking at the safe house because I saw a lot of small kids there, kids that were abandoned, neglected, abused. And I was questioning myself, like, how do I fit in here? How does the system tell me that my house is a danger and I don't feel that I'm in danger? And because of obviously my mother and the fact that I could be this baby that was kidnapped, they had to place me in that safe house. And I cried. And there was this one social worker, Miché. I'm still in contact with her. I think I will forever, she was actually at my wedding. I think I will forever be grateful for her because I told her I cannot stay here. I don't feel comfortable here. I don't actually feel safe at the safe house. Can I please go with you to your house? And she spoke to, I think she got authorization to take me home because it wasn't actually quite a authorized thing to do. And then I actually left with her. Yeah, but it was leading up to the safe house. It was devastating for me. It was heartbreaking for me. And I was scared. I was angry and was very scared. Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine in that moment, you're basically losing a mother.
Yeah.
Losing a father. And now you're also being told that you've got a new father and mother.
And a mother.
And it must be such a confusing thing because...
It was.
Had you not been able to see your mom or dad since this all happened? So you were just taken and you hadn't seen them at all, hey?
They had brought my dad in actually to that place for questioning. And he was confused to why I'm there because I think the officers just came to collect him and said that from work that they needed to speak to him or something like that. And what I didn't like was they cross-questioned him in front of me, which was traumatizing because we're just finding out now that I could be part of something and you've just taken the DNA test and you already cross-examining my father and you don't even have the DNA test results. So that was kind of like, did you already know that I was this child that was kidnapped? So it was very devastating to see my dad in that position. Weak, sad, confused, lost. Because he kept on saying, Kombi, this is my child. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't steal anybody's child. This is my daughter that I've raised. I don't know where you're getting this from. So it was heartbreaking to see my dad in that position. Yeah.
And then what happened when you did get the DNA test back that proved that you were the daughter of Miché and Celeste Nurse?
So I was obviously taken to the social worker's house. And I think she called me we drove to her office and we sat in a little boardroom. It was myself, Miché, and Leona. She was also someone that was working on the case. And then the call came through. And within those moments, those days that I was there, they've actually built a relationship with me, and they could actually see that the upbringing that I had was not of a child that was neglected or abused or in any form treated with violence. And when that call came through, they actually cried because I think they knew what was coming to my life. And I was in matric, I was preparing for university. I had my life going, and this thing happened. And I think they felt it from that perspective, like, why this girl that is caught up in this situation? And she was raised so lovely. She's such a lovely person. Why must this happen to her? And I think from that perspective as a mother, they started crying. And when they cried, I immediately knew, okay, I'm that baby, and my life is going to change. When that call came through, I think I went into total shock. But I was always taught strength by my mother that had raised me. And I actually asked them, why are you crying? But I hadn't realized then, only years later, that I actually went into total shock, that I actually brushed off the emotions. I suppressed the emotion that I should have felt back then. And
Can't process it, yeah.
Yes, and it only revealed itself later in my life as an adult. It was terrible. We then sat, and I was in total shock. And I remember they said that your parents want to meet you.
Your real parents?
Yes, my real parents want to meet me. And I asked them, what's going to happen to my mother now? Is she going to prison? So they said, yes, she was incarcerated. But your dad, he is at that place where we're going to meet your biological parents now. I then said, yes, it's fine. And I don't know, I think I was too strong for my own good that day. We then went to, I think it was Belleville Police Station, I'm not too sure. And there was we were in this boardroom, this huge boardroom, and there were social workers. And I kept my Jeanette's hands so tight because I was so scared, I was so nervous. I didn't have any other familiar face there. They even took my phone away. I was planning to call my boyfriend that time. Listen, jack a car and come and steal me away here. This people's crazy. That's how I felt. I was going to go away.
You sent him a message being like...
Yeah, listen, guys.
You have no idea the day I'm having right now.
Come get me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sat in that boardroom, and she was just so supportive. I don't know what I would have done if...
There's some amazing social workers in South Africa.
She's one of them.
Incredible people, yeah.
And she just spoke me through it, and she was there for me for that time. They then entered, and my mom just burst out of tears. She was just crying. She probably felt a million emotions. I obviously met my dad before, but they were so all emotional. There wasn't a dry tear in that boardroom. And I hugged them. I'll be honest, I did not feel that connection that I felt with Cassidy at that time. It wasn't there yet. And I called Cassidy on the phone, and I told her, I'm your sister. I'm the missing chick you were talking about. And she started crying over the phone, and it was a emotional day for everybody there. But what I felt was I wanted to see my mother. I wasn't allowed to see my mother. And I think what hurt me was that they were supposed to protect me in the sense of, or in their minds, she's this criminal. And we have to protect this girl, so remove this girl from this criminal. But in my mind, she's my mother. When you're removing me from my mother, you are damaging me. You are not protecting me as the system's supposed to be doing. And I think that's where they got it a bit twisted. But at that time, I wanted to see my mother. I wanted to ask, what is this? What the hell? What is going on here? Why are these people telling me these things about my life? Why do they have evidence of what they're saying? I wanted to ask a lot of things, but I think what I mostly wanted was the family that had raised me. Yeah, it was hard. It was heart-wrenching for me. It was, yeah. I don't know how I got through it, seriously. I don't know.
I also don't know. And the thing that I was thinking about, which is quite interesting, is that fact that you didn't know about any of this, right? But obviously your real parents had been thinking about this for 17 years.
Long years.
So it's so weird meeting, I'm sure, because you're just like, yesterday I thought I was this person.
That is how it was.
Or literally like 10 minutes ago, I thought I was this person, and now I'm not that person, right?
Yeah.
I'm your daughter. So that meeting is like, you're meeting them for the first time, and you're only known about them for like an hour.
That's true.
But they've known about you and been thinking about you and looking for you forever. So it must have been so weird almost, because you don't really have any emotions towards them, but all of their life and emotion is centered around you.
That's true. It was difficult. It was very difficult because I didn't know how to be emotional supportive to them because I didn't know them. I didn't even know how to act myself because this is not something that happens every day. And it was literally, yesterday I was one person, the next day I'm another person. So I didn't have that opportunity to grasp who the hell am I now?
Plus your parents aren't your real parents.
That is true. Like, my identity, I'm being told my identity is a lie. It was a lie. My life was basically a lie. How do I comprehend this? It was extremely difficult. There was a lot of things, a lot of confusion going through my mind. So meeting them was very, very difficult. That is something, it took years. I think it's about 9 years now. It took years. It's still, to this day, it takes time to fully comprehend what my parents, when I look at them and I see the snippets, when I see the struggling in certain things, then I'm reminded it's because of what happened. It's because of what happened. But it was very, very, very difficult to kind of split myself between the two and trying to keep myself together because I'm still alive, I'm still breathing, there's still a life for me out here. And how do I see two adults that this thing has broken them so badly? How do I see to the other family that still sees me as Miché and who am I? So there was a lot of identity confusion there.
And a lot of pressure.
Immense pressure, especially when my book came out as well. Because, how can I say, I had to learn a lot of things that my parents' healing and what they've gone through was so huge. You can't put, how can I say, a mandate to how they should feel or when they should feel healed. So it was extremely difficult to build that relationship with them because I didn't know how to be. Like you said, they've longed for me for so long, but I didn't feel kidnapped. I didn't feel like I'm missing. I felt like I was supposed to be where I was supposed to be. So I think they had to also adjust to that many years later, that it is actually not her fault to be the way that she was towards us because that is the only family she knew. That is the only mother and father she knew. You cannot blame her for that. She didn't ask to be stolen. She's innocent in all of this. So I had to learn to sympathize a lot with my biological parents. Yeah, it was difficult building that relationship with them.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine because...
Yeah, it was a lot of pressure. A lot was expected from me at that age and trying to figure out who I am now. Yeah.
And I mean, the teenage years are such a stressful time already. I mean, I almost didn't make it out my teenage years.
Wow.
But it's a very, very difficult time.
There was
especially that 17 age, right? It's like 15, 16, 17, 18. It's such a crucial time in development. And to have, you have an identity crisis as a teenager because you're trying to figure out who you are. And now you really have an identity crisis because you're being told you're actually not who you are.
That's true. That was challenging for me.
I'm sure.
It was extremely challenging because I actually went into depression. There were suicidal thoughts as well. There was a lot of depression, so I started becoming, because it's like split personality, because now I'm with my biological family and now you have to act as Zephany. You don't know who the hell Zephany is. Now you're with the family that had raised you. You need to be Miché. You be Miché, that was a lie. Everything you touch, your name, your son, not your surname, but your age, that is a lie. So you kind of like split in half. So you kind of like drown yourself because you need to be who these people say that you are.
And you want to be there for your real parents because you don't want to disappoint them. They've been waiting for this, and
that is
and
true.
Now it's maybe not what they expected. And
exactly. And you know what, Josh, I neglected myself in that area emotionally because there were moments when obviously my biological parents had hurt me as well because they were also dealing with a lot. And I had to suppress that because I was told it's because of you.
Of what happened to you, yeah.
Yes, it's because of what happened to you. So I felt in the past, why was I returned if my returning has brought so much more damage than what I was stolen? So it was a very tough time for me. So there were even times when I admitted I wish I was never found. Mm-hmm. Because I'm being blamed for why my parents are still making bad decisions because of what had happened to me. So it was a heavy burden on me. And then my mother actually spoke to me and she actually apologized to me. She said, it's not your fault. And I'm sorry that I've made you felt you are not to blame for why our lives are the way it is. This woman is actually to blame. And it is true. It's because of a choice that she made that affected our lives and our own life. So it was very devastating, and I kind of had to put them first emotionally and suppress everything that I was feeling because to the public, it needed to be as you need to support your biological parents. You need to be understanding. It's because of you they are the way they are. It's because of what happened. So I felt there was a lot of pressure. I felt like my voice was disappearing because I'm not the one that lost the child. So I still, to this day, I still fight for my voice because I'm not the one that went through pain. But yes, that's right. But it's the same thing, but I went through a different kind of pain. I was also affected, I also didn't ask to go through this. I was the one that was told, your life was a lie. This identity doesn't exist. And the mother that you have loved is not your mother. So it affected me differently, but I felt like my voice was disappearing because I wasn't the one, that lost the child. Yeah.
Another really sad thing from the documentary was when your dad lost a wife, he lost a daughter, and he had this amazing family, and then in one day he lost it all, and he said going home to that house. Yesterday I had a family, today I walk into a house alone. It's mind-blowing.
It was very devastating for him.
So in the months when you were returned to your family, right, what happened? How was your relationship like in those first few months? Were you living with them?
No, I wasn't living with them. But I remember that came up where I was obviously going to live. Was I going to move back to where I was raised, or was I actually going to live with my biological parents, or was I actually going to live in Stellenbosch by the lady that I was living with, her family? So we had a round meeting, and I obviously discussed it with the social workers that I would obviously go back to the father that had raised me. And I remember my biological parents sitting there, and my dad just burst out of tears because, you're my child. How can you not come back to your family? And it was such a, how can I say, a complex thing because I don't know you. I can't go back to someone I don't know, to a life I don't know. I didn't even know that it existed. And I think it was devastating for him to hear that I had chosen to go back to the family.
To your abductors, in their mind.
Yes. So what I had to learn, that was a very difficult stage, even afterwards. I think to this day, it is still kind of like that. I have to be very sensitive when it comes to the two families. Was that to always consider them. Always sympathize with them, consider them, everything that I've been through. when it comes to my decision making, especially my decision making, because I can see it affects them when I choose a one side. So I grew a relationship with them after I was found. It was difficult in the beginning. It wasn't like people thought it was back together, chapters finish, the end. That was not it. It's still not it today. We had a lot of challenges because now I'm getting to know, and how do you control an 18-year-old? How do you tell an 18-year-old that doesn't know you,
what to do?
You respect me. I'm your mother. I'm your father. You can't just go and do that. You don't have the, how can I say, there's no door for you to open and do
In
that.
your mind, you don't respect their authority because they're not your parents.
I did.
Yeah. In your mind, yeah.
Because of, they are my biological parents. Yeah. But in terms of my decision making in life, I didn't give it to them so easily. They did say that I did cause a lot of hurt by a lot of things that I did confess. And those were a lot of things that I never got the opportunity to speak to them about because we didn't have that relationship to sit down and say, you actually make me feel like this, or I don't like this about you. Like, getting to know one another. So it was extremely difficult when everything was over and we were now busy building. And I think a lot of when the media got involved, the trial was still running, the case was still running.
Yeah, the trial was
hectic.
Yeah.
And that just made it even more unbearable and difficult to build with him because I wanted to build with him in an intimate, how can I say, in an intimate phase where it was just the three of us. And now, how do I spend time with the family with just being like the only child? And now I've got like other siblings.
You got 3 other siblings now.
Yes, how do I be a big sister? I just had to take care of myself. So I had to push down a lot of me and become more of, how can I say, more of supportive to them. So a lot of me had to die. A lot of me had to die to be there for my family because it wasn't about just me anymore. So, yeah, that relationships was difficult. It was extremely difficult. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of things that were said that shouldn't have been said out of emotions from a lot of people's side.
I think especially during the court case, right?
Yes.
What was the court
Emotions
case
were
like for you guys?
I wasn't allowed to go because my identity was protected. There was this clause that was as soon as I turned 18, they were going to lift the banner and reveal who I was because I was 17, I was still a minor. So that's when the social workers helped me get in contact with Anne Skelton. I think she was at the time the director for Child
Protective Services or something.
Yes, that's right. So they opened a application for my identity to be protected, and it was obviously granted. And then I was advised not to go to court. So I didn't know a lot that was happening at court. So
were you not watching it on TV?
I was most of the time. But a lot of family would come over and tell me how it was. But there was a longing to always just see my mother. So I remember I haven't seen my mother since the day.
You still haven't seen her?
I have obviously seen her, but from the day that I was taken from school, the first time I saw her, like face to face, was when I testified in mitigation. So I haven't seen her for a whole year. So when I testified in mitigation, that was only in the year 2016 when I could see her at court. So it was very, 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 very difficult.
And the trial was massive. I mean, it was insane.
It was great. It was on international news as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was huge. I was looking at the photos and the videos, right? And it was just like paparazzi everywhere.
Yes.
There was reporters. There was, I
didn't even know it was that massive.
It was everything. I mean, both your families were attending the trial, right?
Yes, that's right.
I saw there was a lot of fighting at the trial. And I don't know if that was over several different instances, but
there was over several different instances.
The two different families did not get along, right? I mean, I'm sure your real family was like, these people have no right, have no say, they must go to prison. But
yes,
in your mind, you're going, I don't want my mom to go to prison. Or is that how you felt? Or
that's how I felt. That's why I testified in mitigation to help her get a lesser sentence. And that's how I felt. Who would want your mother to go to prison? Nobody would want that unless she was a terrible mother.
But your real parents wanted her to go to prison.
Of course, they didn't know her. And she's obviously the abductor, so I would feel the same way if someone had done that to my kids. So it was difficult for me also to understand them at that time, because the more I'm trying to say, like, she's a good person, she didn't hurt me, she didn't do anything like that, the more you guys are wanting me to feel she's a criminal, she's this, she's that. And then only later on in my life, when I had my kids, when I had my daughter, my eldest.
Could you understand why?
Yes. And then all that realization all came down on me like a ton of bricks. I thought I was going insane, and I went into isolation, and it was a terrible period for me. But I always had someone to pull me out of that pit, which is the counseling I'm still going for to this day. Myself and my husband, we go to that counseling. Obviously, it was not easy being married to someone with all of this. Mm-hmm. So her name is Natalie, she kind of helped me, pulled me out of that pit and to the identity that I am today. She helped me a lot, yes.
And Lavona did end up going to prison.
She did.
For 10 years.
For 10 years, yes. But she didn't complete it. So she's still doing 10 years outside of prison. So she's on probation right now.
And did you ever go to visit her in prison?
Yes, I visited a lot. I even took my daughter there once, but she was very young, and then I decided never to take her there. It's just not a good place for kids. So then I visited her and spoke to her and tried building that. But as the years went on, it just kind of faded.
It did, hey?
It did, to the point where I no longer took her calls. And my dad that raised me, he still trying to keep that relationship there, but saying, answer the phone, speak to her, give her a chance, give her opportunity. And it was just like, no, because it was at that point where if I'm building with this woman, it's interrupting my relationship with my biological mother. And I didn't want that to happen anymore. And the more I was growing fonder of my biological mother and respecting and calling her mommy and seeing what she has gone through, me being a mom as well, and all that pain she must have gone through, it just kind of like, I have to put a line there between that relationship. And it kind of, when I had my first child, it kind of made me felt what she might have gone through with miscarriages and that emotional trauma she must have gone through with nobody to help her. So that relationship faded over the years, with Lavona.
And do you think you'll ever have a relationship with her again?
I don't know. I really don't know. Like I said, if I go and find her, what will I find? Will I find the mother that had raised me? Will I find the wife that is always served our family as a mother, served my father as well? What will I find there? Will I find anger, violence, gangster? What will I find there? Danger, lies, more lies, manipulation, because whatever I find there is going to affect me. And now I can't just let things affect me, because now I have a husband and I have children, and whatever affects me affects them. So I'm a bit worried what I will find there when I go and see her.
When was the last time you saw her?
The last time I saw her was when we had the round table for the very first time. That was in 2022, I think.
What was that, like a discussion, an interview, or?
No, that was when she applied for parole.
Oh, okay. I thought a roundtable discussion, like they do that on YouTube, where they like sit in a circle and do a discussion. Anyway.
So no, she had to obviously plead her case, and my parents then had to ask her. I'm not sure what you call it, I can't remember. But it's when you apply for parole and you become before the board, you come before the board.
A parole hearing.
Yes, there we go. It's a parole hearing. And I was there, and that was the first time I was in the same room with her and my biological parents. My fiance then, my husband now, was with me there. And before we went into that room, there was 2 social workers. They said, your mother is in the other room, your mother and your dad. And I went into that room and I saw my mother. She was like starting to shake before the parole hearing, and she was so fearful and she looked so dreadful, and she was so like, I could see, okay, this thing is coming back up again. Like, she's having to face this woman, speak about this. And I could see she wasn't having a good time. And she wasn't sure if I was now going to choose this woman over her. And I just hugged her and I told her, I stand with you. I stand for the truth. And then I could see she felt much better. But I was very nervous because I didn't know what to expect. I went into the parole hearing and we had our discussions there, and it was just devastating to see how my mother then asked the questions, and she actually got like a panic attack where they had to like have a recess within the meeting because it was getting so heated in there with the questions, and my dad then wanted to know the details. Wat het my kind gedra? Why did you do it? What's in your mind?
Sure, they wanted to know everything.
Yes, and she wasn't giving that to them. That was the first parole hearing, and that was the last time I saw her. But there was another parole hearing, which was last year, and I didn't go to that one. My husband's like, I'm not going to let you go there because...
Can't keep doing it to yourself.
No, exactly. You're not going there. And he was actually right. I didn't go. But from what my biological parents said, when they went there, my biological mom actually hugged her. I would have loved to see that. They actually hugged, and she told her that she forgives her. And I think that was the breakthrough my mother needed. So I'm not really sure what that discussions was there.
You can't hold on to things forever, yeah?
Yes, and all I know is that my mom actually gave her a hug. I think my mom could actually see this woman actually really needs help.
She was a broken woman as well.
Yes,
yeah.
She actually really needs help. Yeah.
I think the thing that, if I'm putting myself in your parents' shoes, that would have really hurt me, I think would have been like, you had all this time to give our daughter back and you just never did.
It's almost 30 years. I'm 27 years old. It's almost 30 years. And I think my dad still to this day, this thing just made him tough. I think I constantly have to speak to him in a certain manner to soften him. No, my biological dad.
Okay.
This thing made him so tough, so hard in his heart. I told him, you're hard. You're a very hard person. And I can understand now why, after all these years, why he became like that. Yeah.
And since all of this happened, right, since everything's come out, I mean, what was that like when everything came out? Because you said that they put a ban on your name being released for 5 years, right? What was that like when people did finally find out that it was you?
So when I came out with my identity was in the year 2019, but obviously before then, 2018, the plan was rolling. So I went through an emotional roller coaster when I had kids. I had 2 kids a year apart and 2 messed up relationships, which was not good or healthy. And I think I kind of like just went down a pit, and I was isolated there, and I became a single mom. But my dad, Michael, he stood with me, and it was very difficult financially. It was just very, very difficult. And then, like I said, Natalie, she came there and she counseled me and she spoke to me and she said, you should go work and get yourself up and, speak to people, help other people. You can help other people. It will make you feel better about what you're going through. You'll see there's actually people going through way much more than you. And she was like the fresh air in my life, that light that I needed. And she just picked me up and walked alongside me to this very day. And I sat down and I started praying. Because there was nobody else I could turn to. And I was like, Lord, is this my life? Is this what it actually is? Because if it is, I'm going to take it now. I don't want it. And I don't want to get too spiritual about things. But I started praying and I started getting involved in the church and I started working with youth and I started working in the communities. And that was a life changer for me. When I saw the broken homes, the broken families, the youth, the potential that there is, the violence that was happening in our area, hearing gunshots. We hear the gunshots, we run out, we don't run inside.
I know, yeah. I know. I'm like that as well.
So I sat and I started praying and I was like, Lord, what is my purpose? I don't have a purpose. I don't know what my purpose is. I don't even know who I am. And he gave me Jeremiah 29. And I read through that scripture and it says that he gives you a plan and a purpose and a future. And I took hold of that scripture. And I said, you know what, this might be the only thing that I can hold on to, is that your promises is that I have a hope, that you've given me a future and you're going to make me prosperous. And I took that and I said, Lord, give me purpose. What is purpose? Why did this happen to me? It could have happened to anybody else. That's when I started questioning God, because there was nobody else to question anymore, because I wasn't getting the answers that I needed. So I told myself, I'm going to question God now, because he's the one that put me on this earth. He's the one that chose my parents. So why did you put me on this earth? Just for my life to be ruined like this, to be in pieces like this, for me to be at my lowest point. And he told me in a scripture about restoration for families. It's like I had a revelation of my name. Zephany actually means the Lord has hidden. And I went kind of, I don't want to get too spiritual, but I was self-searching my purpose. Why this is happening? Why did I make the choices that I've made to have kids? And what was going on in my life? And I started going on the self-searching, soul-searching, and praying and getting involved with church and getting more involved with people, because I was in an isolated state. I was to myself, my kids and myself, and my dad, Michael, that had raised me. He helped me a lot.
And everyone knows you, but no one knows you.
Yes. So I was, how can I say, when I looked at everything, you know, you always have to go and reevaluate your life. I do that every year. Myself and my husband, we do that every year. We reevaluate how we've grown the year. And that's what I did back then by myself. And I saw how my return was not like a curse anymore, but it was in fact a blessing. And that I needed to, that isolation, when I was so isolated, that's when I found myself more with God, reading the word more, getting more understanding, and shoving out the voices of who I needed to be, who I need to be, who I am. And I had to discover who the Lord actually says I am. Because I've now tried to be everybody that everybody says that I needed to be, and it hasn't worked out. So let's give the Creator a try. And that's what I did, and I will forever be grateful for that isolation phase. And that's where the book actually was birthed from, was from that brokenness that there was no one else to ask. There was no, how can I say, help for me, only but to go to God, to ask, why did all of this happen? Why couldn't the police find me when I was much younger? Why is it that my sister had to be on the same high school as me? The system couldn't do it, but you let the bloodline do it, which is my sister, which speaks more volume. And so I was going through that deep search, and I wanted my story to become something bigger than myself. And that has helped given me purpose to this very day. Like a lot of people say, it's my testimony, and that's right, it is my testimony. So part of my purpose is to help restore families today, because Satan doesn't like that. He doesn't like unity. Sorry.
That's okay.
He doesn't like unity and he doesn't like families because he knows the strength that gets built in family, and he knows the identity of a person that gets built in a family, and he wanted to rip that away from me. That is exactly what he wanted to do. You remove my family, you remove my strength, you remove my identity. And once I could understand why I went through what I went through, the book was birthed from that.
What's the name of the book? Just so that I'm sure people are going to want to read it now.
It's called The Zephany, Two Mothers, One Daughter.
So it's called Zephany?
Two Mothers, One Daughter.
Two Mothers, One Daughter.
Extraordinary story.
Please go and buy it. Go and support her.
Yes, so the book basically speaks about hope.
Yeah.
Finding hope in a place of hopelessness, basically. It also exposes a lot of what I've gone through. The book says more than what I've said in public.
I'm sure.
Yes, because that's where I was finding myself. I couldn't voice myself out there, so I had to put it on pen and paper.
It's also sometimes when you're speaking, it's hard to collect your thoughts in order, but when you sit down and write it out, it's a lot easier.
That was therapeutic. That was actually a tip from my counselor, is to start writing things, jog things down. And, when I did that, it was like a journal for me, I came out so much stronger, so much more relieved, even though the book wasn't accepted, because it was like my journal of my personal experience, my opinions, my thoughts, what I felt. And the public didn't always accept that. They thought it was...
Because they wanted you to be this perfect little girl that they had been thinking about for 17 years.
It's true. Yeah. And that was not the case for me. That was not my reality. My reality was that I was actually in a pit and I was feeling all of these things. And I couldn't show it to you. I didn't want to show it to you. But I'm telling you about it. You can read about it. And then...
And while your life is falling apart, everyone's celebrating. It's like it's so weird, yeah. That was the suppressing part that I went through, was suppressing things. And I think when the book came out, it was just like I'm saying it all. It's over, yeah.
I'm saying it all. I can't keep this in. I want something bigger than myself. I want my story to be known as something beautiful, as something restorative towards families. And I didn't want to be known as a broken girl. I don't believe, for me personally, Josh, I don't believe in that. I believe that I'm here to restore this nation because that's how far my life experience, my family story has gone throughout the borders of South Africa to touch families. You know how much messages I've received, I still receive.
I'm sure. You're going to receive a lot after this, I promise you.
There are messages from... people from Mexico, how they've heard about the story, they've saw about the book, they've saw the interviews, they've gone back to families they haven't spoken to in years. Relationships were restored. And that's the beauty of family, is that your strength in who you are. Because if you're in deep waters, who's there? Family's there.
If I didn't have my family, I would not be here today. I couldn't imagine my life without my parents. I could not imagine it.
That's true. And I could understand why that was wanted to be taken away from me. My identity wanted to be taken away from me. And I'm here to help restore this nation because I've seen what families have gone through. My family, they're still going through a lot. And part of my book, you'll see all the raw emotions that I've gone through, all the ill feelings that I felt at the time. It was extremely emotional. It was extremely emotional writing that book, but it was something bigger than myself, something that I needed. Like I told you, I felt my voice was going to drown, was going to be lost. And writing that book helped give me a voice to say, this is what actually happened to me. There was a lot of people that asked me, why are you not saying anything? You're quiet. Who is this girl? And there were some people, I know this girl. I used to go out with this girl. I used to go clubbing with this girl. I know her. She's cool. She's not who these people say that she is and all of that. And I think I needed to put that in a book. for people to see. And you know what's so nice about the book is as you get to the end, you can understand everything. Like the documentary, it starts off rush and you hear the emotional parts and the not so nice parts. But as it gets closer to the end, you see the beauty of everything. Yeah.
100%. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming down today.
It's a pleasure.
I've really been looking forward to doing this interview for basically years at this point since I started, because I messaged you ages ago, and
I was busy.
No, I'm not.
And I'm even more busy.
Things happen when they're supposed to happen, I believe.
True.
And it's awesome to have you here today. Your story is so inspiring, and I think the way you tell it is beautiful, and I think your outlook on everything that's happened is incredible as well. To go through what you've gone through, and to be the person you are and still be here and still keep pushing and want to make a change, you know, and want to make a change in other people's lives. Your story 100% has the power to do that. 100%. And I think you're going to do amazing things in the future.
Thank you very much for that. There is an organization that I am working with. It's called Remarkable. So we're on Facebook. So there's a helpline you can also call. So it's on Facebook, the number is there. So what we basically do is we see to a lot of people that is in help, emotional. We help build the person holistically. And you know, Remarkable has been there for me even way before everything came out. And they have just built me in every area of my life. And it's called Remarkable Restoration and Repairing. So if there is anybody that want to speak to a counselor that needs upliftment, they can just contact Remarkable.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And is there anywhere where they can find you and reach out to you if they would like
Facebook,
to? Yeah.
You can reach me out on Facebook or through Remarkable.
Okay.
Or you can just reach me out on Instagram.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm just a normal, humble person trying to make it in life.
We all are. But anyway, thank you so much for coming down today. I'm going to let you get back to your family, which has been sitting in the car for an hour and a half outside. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Wide Awake podcast, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.
That was so cool.